So to get this HT20 running, we need to replace the starter. Unfortunately, that means we have to lift the motor. There just isn't enough room to get it out otherwise. So we need to remove the 4 bolts holding the motor in place, which again is kind of unfortunate because the 2 back bolts are kind of hard to get to. Now I don't have an engine lift or anything to lift the motor, so my plan is just to use some leverage to lift one side and then place some blocks underneath. Now there are 3 bolts holding the starter. The top one is a little difficult to get to, but the other 2 aren't terrible. While doing this, I decided to take off the hood, the gas tank, and battery to see if there was any better angles to lift the motor. In the end, it didn't really help, but here's the process. You can see I tilted the motor just enough to put 2 2x4s underneath the engine blower housing, and that gave me the space I needed to pull the starter out. Man, it is so dirty in here. After installing the new starter, I just dropped the motor back down, and it lined right back up with the bolt hole since I didn't move it much. But I will say, if you have to do this, make sure you get a good starter. This was a bit of a pain, and I definitely don't want to do it again anytime soon. The starter is working, so that's good. Now, you can probably tell it's a bit later in the day, and that's because I realized why they had the kill switch wired up in the first place. It was to jump power from the battery to the ignition coil because there's no power going to the coil. So I'll need to redo the wiring to figure that out, but in the meantime, I put a toggle switch back on. It was pretty quick. I just used one of the holes in the frame, wired the battery to the toggle switch, then ran the other end to the ignition coil. I also added a fuse holder in between as a bit of a failsafe. But with that done, we can see if it starts. My next few weeks are about to get really busy, so I needed to get this thing mowing. So I did an oil change, and this is the only clip I got of that. I also changed the oil filter. Now off camera, I hooked up the mower deck, which took a minute to figure out. And that's going to be a whole nother video because the deck needs some work. I can't seem to lift it all the way up. The wheels never leave the ground, so I'll need to figure that out. But with that being said, it is in a good position to still mow, so we can finally get mowing.